Georgia Tech, a young wide receiver named Tony Elliott, caught a 9-yard pass from Charlie Whitehurst. So two things. Does it seem like it's been that long since Clemson's won there, and what are your memories of that game?
Well, starting with the memories of that game, I actually had to steal that ball away from the DB to get credit for the touchdown. But obviously we're aware of how long it's been. And I was actually telling a joke because, you used to get those stories from your parents. This hadn't happened since I did it. And I was telling some of the guys we hadn't won down in Atlanta since the last time I played. So we're reminded of that. But each year is a new team. New opportunity. Obviously, we're not defined by what we did in 2003. We have to go down there and create our own legacy. And we're going into a game against an undefeated Georgia Tech team that is coming off of a big win versus Vanderbilt. They're playing with a lot of confidence on defense, so we're going to have a challenge.
Why is it so hard to win there?
I don't know. The times that when I played, we went down there. The 2 years that I went down there, we won. But it's always been back and forth with Georgia Tech. And if you go back and look at that stretch, they won some games here. They came into the Valley and won some games. I remember, I think was it Kerry Colbert, or was that his name? The receiver that caught the one-hand touchdown to beat us? Kerry Watkins, okay. Kerry Watkins caught a ball in the back of the end zone. We thought we had the game won, but it's just a great rivalry. And they stepped their game up just like we step our game up. And it's, one of the only inter-conference rivalries where we cross over every year. We're going to play them. So it's just a natural rivalry. A lot of guys from the state of Georgia, just a lot of excitement. And, neat little environment. It's not a big environment, but they get loud and they crank the music up, and they're always excited to play when they play Clemson.
How important was it to be able to rest Queen on Saturday and keep his legs fresh for a quick turnaround?
I think you could say that's important, but that really wasn't the objective. We wanted all the guys to go out and get off to a good start, and more importantly, it was big for us to be able to play the backup guys and get them some meaningful reps. And all the guys got a good 15 reps or more. Each guy was able to get in there. They each had touches. I think that's going to pay off more dividends than having an opportunity to rest Wayne.
So, how about Tavian Fisher's performance on Saturday? What did you glean out of that?
I think everybody, when you see him with the ball, we know that he's special. As a coach, it's my job to critique, and so I'm focusing on the little things. There's a lot of little things without the ball. With the ball, he's great. Still got to focus on ball security, but you saw natural ability take over once the lights came on.
Tony, did last Saturday have that kind of building block confidence booster effect? Have you seen that the last couple of days?
I think so, and I think it started, there at the end of the Troy game with those last 3 drives, and that was the focus that we wanted to put on the offensive unit. Is look, the last 3 drives, and even at Auburn, when we had to go down and put drives together, we've been able to do it, and then there was some times of inconsistency, but we wanted to build off the last 3 drives of the Troy game where we had put up 17 points when we needed it, and carry that off to a fast start. And it was good to see the guys come out and have fun. The biggest thing is taking the pressure off and getting back to doing what we do, play fast, distribute the ball, guys having fun, excited for everybody else's success. So, I think from a chemistry standpoint, that was the thing that we took out of the most, that we kind of got that chemistry back flowing where it needed to be.
Will you and Jeff get any sleep before Thursday night?
No, and hopefully I don't seem like I'm dragging, but it's already been a long couple of days trying to get prepared because, you got to turn over the game in respect for the players. You got to close out South Carolina State the right way and show them the film, correct their mistakes. Then you got to get right on to Georgia Tech. And so, most times on Saturday you look forward to a 12 o'clock game because you get to go home, grade your film, kick back, and watch some other teams play. It was as soon as I graded the film, it was right on to watching Georgia Tech, and we've been at it for the last day and a half or so. It seems like it's been about 3 days.
How nostalgic was it for you on Saturday to go against the team that gave you your freshman start?
It was good to see those guys, and they were in a tough situation. That right out the gate they had 3 big games against opponents and traveling, and so obviously you could tell that it was tough on those guys, and they're doing the best that they can, and they got a good football team, and their biggest thing was to get through the day and get onto their conference schedule, because I think once they get into the MEAC, they'll be just fine. But it's good to see Coach Pugh. He took a chance on me. My situation is a lot different than many coaches in the profession. I didn't go the GA route. I went straight from engineering to a full-time position coach, and he believed in me and gave me an opportunity, and for that I'm forever grateful to him and for South Carolina State University.
I know a lot's made about preparing for their offense, on a short week and everything, but did it help you guys in the fall camp being able to work on their defense some as well?
Definitely, and you always got to look ahead. Again, you take it day by day, week by week, but in the big scheme of things, we knew that we were coming off of a short week And playing that, especially on that offense, can prepare for that offense. For the defense, it was a big help. And then the same thing for us. We're able to put a couple days of work in the bank so that when we come in on Sunday, we're not starting over. And so the guys have some familiarity with it because, again, you're losing 2 days of preparation. You're trying to combine, 2 practices into one where you're working different situational things that come up in the game in 1 day. So it was big for us to have an opportunity over the summer to put in a couple days.
Did you learn some things from last year against Louisville then that you can take over this year?
Say it again.
Did you learn some things from the Louisville prep last year that you can carry over to this week as far as getting it all in time?
Yeah, and actually this was, being able to do the same thing last year with Louisville is where we kind of learned that this is what we needed to do for Georgia Tech. And, the biggest thing is making sure that our guys know what to do. Obviously, when you have an extra day of practice, you can tweak a couple things going into a plan. But when you're preparing on a short week, you just got to make sure that you have your guys ready and understanding what you're doing. And the biggest thing is to be simple, play fast, and go out and execute.
What have you learned about Georgia Tech defense through 3 games, both in terms of their schemes and then the offense they played, or not the style or caliber of this?
Right, preparing for them, watching Vanderbilt and watching Boston College, they're more of a pro style, 21 personnel, 12 personnel, shift motion, do all those kind of things, and a lot of it doesn't marry up. But what you know about Ted Roof is he's going to be sound in what he does. He's going to be aggressive. They got a lot of depth on the defensive line. They're breaking in a new Mike linebacker. Their nickel Sam's played a lot of football. They're also playing another guy in heavy personnel sets. So all of their secondary guys may be new starters, but they got some experience. So, a lot of it is the same stuff that he did last year, but you're also seeing some tweaks and some things that you can see that he went and studied over the summer to try and implement that better fit his personnel.
Other than the turnovers, the pick sixes 2 years ago, and certainly with such a wild sequence of Deshaun starting, Cole pitching, what stood out about how you guys attacked their defense down there 2 years ago?
I think, 2 years ago he played a little bit more coverage. As you watch him last year, I think he had a little bit more experience on the back end with all those starters in the secondary, and he was a little bit more aggressive playing man. Once they got a lead, they were able to sit back in zone and then just wait for us to try and be patient to go down the field, and we weren't able to manufacture drives, 2 years ago. And then last year we got to an early lead on them, and then they tried to be aggressive to try and put some pressure on Deshaun, play us in man coverage, get the ball out quick. And then this year you're starting to see a little bit of mix of that, but a lot more zone coverage this year as opposed to last year.
Tony, during your going back to your playing days when you played Georgia Tech, just a bunch of wild games, right? That first one was Woody in overtime, I think it was.
Right.
Woody scoring at the end. Do you think it's that crossover rivalry, knowing that you guys are playing each other all the time, that brings out those kind of wild finishes and wild games?
I think there's some truth to that. But going back to that game, I don't like to remember the one when Woody scored because I spent the whole game in the locker room with a broken wrist. I broke my wrist on the first play of the game, covered a kickoff. So I think Dr. Bowman's still mad at me for that because he reminds me that he missed that game and didn't get to see Woody score that touchdown because he was in the locker room with me. But and then in 2003, it was just everything came together that night, and I think it is just the rivalry. We know we're going to play each other every year. We're right down the road. You got the academic rivalry as well in terms of the engineering and what they do on their campus and what we do on our campus. So I think the proximity, the opportunity to play it every year, I just think that brings out the best in both programs.
Is tempo even more important when you're playing a team like Georgia Tech that makes its living off of ball control and eating up big chunks of clock?
Of course, tempo is what we do, but then you also gotta understand that their philosophy with the option offense is they're going to limit you in possessions, and so you got to make sure, you want to play fast, but you got to be efficient too. You want to stay on the field as long as you can to help your defense, and you want to make sure that when you do get your opportunity with your drives that you capitalize, because statistically, if you look at it, you're going to get anywhere from 12 to 14 drives. In a typical game, you're talking about 9 to 10. When you're playing a team like Georgia Tech, especially when they're rolling, and if you have some turnovers, the next thing you know, your possessions are limited even more. So you want to play fast, but you got to be efficient, and you got to make sure that your drives count. And you want to put the pressure on them. If you can score some points, their offense isn't necessarily built to come from behind. They're built to play ahead.
Schematically and personnel-wise, what do you see in Georgia Tech from last year's team to this year's team?
I think their experience at defensive end. They got some interior guys that are replacing number 96, which was a really good player. I think he was a draft pick for them last year. Number 40, is their best player. Their will linebacker. He's all over the place, and obviously he's going to be a guy that's going to be fired up to play against us. He's fired up every year. Schematically on the back end, you can see that the guys have played a little bit, but not quite. the cohesion that they had last year to be able to make the adjustments on all your motions, the communication, to change and check coverages. So you're seeing a lot of the same structure, but you're also seeing a little bit more of playing base until they can kind of get their rhythm and get their chemistry together to be able to do some of those things from an adjustment standpoint.
Played a lot of offensive linemen the last 2 weeks. Do you kind of have a feel now what that rotation will be in the depth chart moving forward?
You know, I think that it was good to play all those guys, and obviously we want every game wherever we can spell some guys. We definitely want to do that. I think the pace of the game and how the game is going to dictate how much we rotate those guys. But it was good early in the season to get some reps because down the stretch, you know, we're going to need those guys. But in terms of the rotation for this game and going forward, I think it's going to be more how they practice each week and the progress that they continue to make, and then how the game is going and how the situations are.
Are there one or two guys who stood out to you the last couple of weeks that deserve some playing time?
You know, I think Maverick continues to make progress. Falcinelli is a guy, you know, is also making progress. You know, was pleased with Big John. You know, he still has some things that he's got to continue to learn in the playbook. You know, Anchorman and Paul are the guys that played well. So I think we got a good solid 10 guys that we feel like we can roll. And again, each time the situation, Coach Caldwell, Coach Sweeney will handle the rotation, and how the game is going to determine how that goes.
Are you pleased with how they played so far this year, or do you feel like they maybe need to step it up a notch this week?
Who's that?
The offensive line.
You know, I think it's a tough situation. You go down and you play, you know, a top defensive front like you did in Auburn, and you don't give up a sack, and then you come in Troy. You know, Troy did some things to challenge us early on, and we kind of, and it's on me, we kind of abandoned the running game to get some rhythm in the passing game, and then we come back and, you know, we have a good showing. I don't know if we have enough evidence to give a fair evaluation, but so far so good. But we got to challenge those guys each and every day to be consistent in everything that they do, and this is going to be a good challenge for them. Now we're into the stretch, and a couple more games under our belt, we'll be able to determine. You know, I don't think it's fair to make an assessment this early in the season on how they're playing.
All right, thank you, Coach.
All right, no problem.